Oh, there it is. The countdown. 2, 3, 4, 5 seconds. We have been live. Hello, everybody. Good evening. I hope everybody's doing well out there in YouTube land. You guys, thank you so much for being with us this evening on Vintage Rescue Squad. I think it's a really special episode this evening. We have Jason from Mother Tuckers, and of course, we have Bill. Depending on where you may or may not, it is, do you mind? I mean, it's Bill K. A lot of you may know him from the sales or from live chats, but Bill is also selling on Instagram now. I do want to let you guys know really quickly, down below in the description of the video, you will find links to YouTube channels for both Misty and I, and you will also find Instagram links for all four of us. If you were not, for any accidental reason, of course, following anybody or subscribe to a channel, go ahead, do that. It would take literally like 15 seconds to click all 6 of those links and follow and subscribe. Again, there's no money that's involved. It's just a little bit of an encouragement to help grow some small businesses, and be above and beyond that, really encourage some great people. So thank you all for being here this evening. All right, so super quick shout outs. Now, technically, Mick, I am seeing you first, though I'm recognizing that you're acknowledging Zira. So technically, Mick, hello, congratulations, and thanks for being the first comment that we see. Zira, you're out there also, lady. Thank you for being here. Hello, Ladonna, how are you doing? There's Zira right there, we say. Pennsylvania also loves its surprises.
I think about everywhere loves their surprises. There's snow here today.
Yeah.
Too.
Yeah, Michigan got some snow. I saw some friends on Instagram. They showed that they were getting snow.
It's crazy.
It is crazy.
I had seen on the news that we're supposed to be like in the 80s towards this weekend. So.
Mother Nature's pissed. Mother Nature's so angry right now that it's
Armageddon.
No, she's getting even with us. That's what it is. She's going to get us one way or another because of what we're doing to her. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Okay, we're getting deep here quick.
Sorry, I didn't mean to get. Sorry.
Mother Nature is coming at you guys. Watch out. But we do have everybody's favorite Karen out there, giving the Karens of the world a good name and reputation. Karen Radford, how are you? Hello, everybody's favorite Winking and Esco Kitty. Amy, how are you? Thank you for being here this evening. We've got Wolves 1819. How are you doing this evening? Oh, hello, Sarah Coleman. How are you?
Sarah.
Hello, Sandra. I almost called you Sandra. Jeez. Zira again, and Val and Vintage Gates. You guys, we got all of the amazing people. Thank you all again, once again, for being here with us and being here with us so early. Hello, Matthew. And we've got the other Coleman, David Coleman. All right, I'm going to go ahead and scroll down really quick. So I'll tell you what, guys, why don't we go around? We'll do round robin. We'll introduce ourselves, and then we'll get into the chat. How about that? Misty, you want to go first? Jason, Bill, and then I'll go last.
Sure. I'm Misty, and I'm Thrifter, Junker, Vintage Hunter, and I sell things on YouTube and eBay.
Get it.
My name is Jason. I own a brick and mortar store outside of Lancaster, Pennsylvania. It's called Mother Tucker's Antiques and Collectibles. I also sell on Instagram with live sales and have started to venture into YouTube to sell on live sales as well.
Ooh.
Hey everyone, I'm Bill, and on Instagram I'm Garden Guy Bill, and I just recently started selling on Instagram. Hadn't planned on doing that because I sell actually in a brick and mortar store as well, and I enjoy that, and I like to keep it low key because I have a busy full-time job. But it's been fun venturing into the selling part of Instagram and YouTube because I previously had only been a buyer.
Yeah,
a lot. and I apologize for anyone who's here that I outbid. Please don't hold it against me.
Listen, there is it's all is fair in love and vintage.
Exactly.
I will beat Michael if I can. I don't normally do because he normally beats me, but
Well,
I will try.
Somebody said Michael will unfriend you if you outbid him. I don't know if that's true. If
No, I'm not
block
going to
you
unfriend
on
you.
other
I just block
platforms.
you. There's a difference.
He'll
Just
drive.
put a hit out on you. That's all.
I'm so close. He'll drive down here and open up a can of you know what on me if I'm not good. So
Yeah, no, I would never unfriend somebody. Blocking is a different story, though.
You won't be
And
unfriended.
hello,
You
guys.
just won't know.
What?
So they won't be unfriended. They just won't know that they've
Exactly, right? No harm, no foul.
No.
All's fair in love and vintage, right? She said it, not me. But hello, guys. It's Michael Todd, and of course, I am the Cult of Vintage, and I sell primarily, or currently, I am selling what's it called? YouTube Live, and of course, we're putting out Shop with Me videos currently. So yes, thank you all for being here this evening. As always, you guys, if you guys do have questions, make sure that you're putting them in capital letters in the chat. That way they stand out a little bit more from various other kind of comments, or if you're engaging with one another, which we do encourage. Again, keep in mind that while we happen to be the ones that are on the camera, you guys play just as important a role in the conversation. So don't be shy. Put it out there. Ask a question. If it's a super weird question, we'll just pretend like we didn't even see it. How about that? Yes, I think it is a great lineup too, Amy. And the reason I kind of wanted to do this lineup is because, as Bill said, he is now testing the waters in online selling. So I guess kind of like my question, and to put him on the spot, is Bill, what did you think? How many sales have you done thus far, if you know, online? And I guess, how did it go for you? What did you think?
So
in comparison, maybe to selling in brick and mortar.
Yeah, so I've only done 2 online sales, and I don't think I ever would have done it unless Molly, who's at Two Good Friends Vintage over on Instagram, she saw some posts that I had of the shelves that I have at my store, and she was like, "Bill, you have some great stuff. Why don't you do a live?" And I was like, I'm kind of, I don't know. But I have no problem talking in front of people. I teach college for a living, so this is what I do. I love it. So I did it, and Sherry at Time for Treasure and Jason came along for the ride, and it's been really, really fantastic. I had done online sales in a different way before, and it was all a mistake, actually. I have a niece who lives in Europe, and when she's here in the summers, she goes shopping with me. And earlier this year, I had put in the store, I'd redesigned one of the shelves with some of the things that she had gone with me to purchase. Ooh. And I sent her a picture, but I did it through Instagram. And that night, I had, 40 direct messages from people wanting various things that were there. And I didn't post it for that purpose, but there was this, and I'll always remember this. There was this one diamond point fairy lamp, glimmer lamp from Viking that was in this really rare color called Thistle. And everybody wanted it. I didn't even know how to approach it because I had like 20 people asking me for it. So that was actually how the whole Instagram selling online thing started for me. And it was unintentional. I was just posting for my niece.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Sometimes things can come in the most unexpected places, and like different adventures and different ideas can come and you didn't even think about it. And that's kind of social media has its downfalls, but it has such a lot of upsides to it as well for things such as that, or just, this community in general, being able to connect with other people that have very similar mindsets. So I think that it's serendipitous sometimes how things happen.
Agree.
What did you like most about it? What was kind of like, maybe if there was a drawback to you, what would have been a drawback to you?
There aren't any so far. I've actually really been enjoying it, and it's because I'm taking it slow. I'm not
Yes.
going crazy. I'm doing one every 2 weeks. I may end up doing one more perhaps every other week, but yeah, I'm taking it slow. I love my work at the store. I think there will always be a place for in-person vintage and antique shopping,
Yes.
because I think people always want to interact. And actually we see that on the videos. I think that's one of the reasons why YouTube is so attractive to people. Michael, you talk about the experience all the time. I'm sorry, Pat. Yes, I did sell that. I have a lot more. I just don't have time to post them all. But again, Michael, you always talk about, when you're filming, you want to create an experience. And I think that's really true. One of the things that I love about watching Misty online, because it's like surrogate shopping for us.
Yeah.
You never know when Misty picks up something, if she's actually going to buy it or not. And I'm always like, is she going to get it? Is she not? She loves it. But is she going to get it? And I think that really is attractive to people. And for me, I love being able to connect people with things that maybe they can't find locally. The things that I sell are not necessarily the things I collect.
Yep.
I'm not likely to sell a lot of the things that I collect, but when I see what other people are looking for, and then I see them in my area, because I actually feel like I'm not in a very, I don't have a lot of competition in my area at the sorts of places that I go. I don't feel that way, at least right now. And I do find a lot of good treasures.
Well, wait till you start filming YouTube videos and where you're shopping. Then you will.
Yeah, I live in Upper Montana, by the way.
Oh.
Yeah, sure you do, Bill. Yeah. Sure you do, Bill.
Yeah. I was going to say, that's not where you live.
This is like, you do? Wait, what?
Did you move?
Now, Jason, how about for you? I mean, I think that you've kind of spoken about it before, but I think that you really do bring an interesting perspective in regards to the selling, just by virtue of having a brick and mortar business, as well now as selling as an individual via social media. And Jason has sold predominantly on Instagram and is now doing a lot more on YouTube. I mean, what has been, do you think, the biggest difference? I mean, what has been the biggest plus so far as selling online? And has there been a negative for you in regards to selling online?
I can say right off the bat, I can say that the platforms are very different. I knew this because I'm a lot like Bill. I was a buyer before I was a seller on these two platforms, and YouTube is a lot more friendlier in this kind of environment, in my opinion. You have a slower chat. You have a chat that as a seller, you can go back to retrieve information. Instagram, it's in the moment. You can save the video, but you lose all of the chat. I feel sometimes I even feel like YouTube, there's less of a lag. And that I feel as a buyer. As a seller, I kind of enjoy the fact that the video is better. The audio is video. I feel like I can show my things better. I've done research over on Instagram, and it seems like if you have an Android like I do, the video quality is not going to be as good as an Apple device. Yeah. But I'm working with what I have, so I stick with an Android for now. I enjoy this. It gives me an opportunity to bring my brick and mortar into the virtual world, because in my neck of the woods, we consider ourselves Antiques Capital USA, and by square footage, I'm the smallest outside of maybe Lancaster County antiques. I'm the smallest. So I've always been the black sheep, or I've always been the underdog by larger malls that have brought competition or have not wanted people to know about my brick and mortar because we have good prices. So they've not really wanted people to know. So then I kind of, I viewed Instagram and I viewed this and I thought, this gives me a foot forward, because there's no owner that I know of that would be sitting here doing this. They'd be petrified, let alone, do a live sale. But I'm fortunate in my past job, I was a entertainer. That's what I got paid to do for 10 years. So it's kind of my two worlds mesh. And this gives me an opportunity because I have health issues that most people don't have. And COVID changed my life in ways that, like everybody else's life, changed, but mine were very, very drastic. Mine were life or death. And that's how I learned about this community. So it allows me to still interact, even though rates are low and things are, in essence, getting back to normal. There's still a possibility that there could be a day where it isn't safe for me, where it would be safe for the majority. So I figured I need to cultivate this, and I need to curate this, and I need to grow this for not only myself to stay employed, to keep my wife employed, and also to grow my brick and mortar. So I have a different perspective. And other than that, I find this community very positive. I felt them very warming. I felt them very inviting, very helpful. It did surprise me, seeing that I come as an entrepreneur, you don't share the tricks of the trade with people, yet this community was very forthcoming in sharing. I have felt in any community, there is a distinction of people that have egos and some people that aren't as willing to want to collaborate or do things, but that's life. That's the real world. That's what we all deal with when we get up in the morning and, we put our shoes on and pants on and go to work. I mean, it's life. So that would be probably the thing that surprised me the most, is how people view this business. There's some people in this to make money, and there's some people in this to be a personality. And to me, that goes back to my DJ world where, it's oil and water. We work together. So, I worked with people that did this as a side hustle, as a disc jockey, and I was a full-time. It caused friction. It's just part of it. So you just kind of navigate your way through. So that would probably the only negative that I found, is that, in this virtual world, you deal a lot with typing, text, emails. I'm old school. Like, I'm not that old, but I'm not that young. And I grew up.
He's old school.
And I grew up.
He's the same age as me, I think.
Well, I think we are, Misty.
I
really think we are. Well, I mean, but I grew up in a world where you still had to speak to people. You had to read their body language. You had to understand, and you could learn if you read people and you excelled at it. You could tell when you were kind of being told a story, but this is a whole different dynamic, because you're trying to conduct business with people that are across the country. You think you're driving, you think you're working, and they have a different, So that's probably the only thing that makes this difficult. That
it takes longer to get to know somebody virtually.
It does. It does.
Well, I was just going to say, in this community, I mean, as a blanket, this vintage reselling community, I mean, both as buyers and sellers, I mean, it is the community in itself is a wonderful, open and giving community, but not everybody's personalities are going to mesh.
Exactly.
So we can be part of the community, and maybe not necessarily, we wouldn't be hanging out on a Saturday night together, and that's okay. Okay. Not everybody's going to have the same personality types. I can get on a lot of people's nerves after 15 minutes.
And I'm constantly guilty sometimes of being too blunt. I mean, even as my brick and mortar, when I deal with things, I don't really caramel coat things. I mean, I'm ethical and I use couth, but I've always probably been guilty of being sometimes too blunt about things. So
I don't necessarily see that as a bad trait necessarily. I mean, I think within business and being an entrepreneur, you kind of have to, you have to be blunt in a lot of instances.
Right.
And
time's money.
Right.
And the longer you take beating around the bush, it's just money you're letting on the ground. So what's the point?
And I've had, look, between my DJing years and owning a brick and mortar, like I have 40 active dealers that come from all different walks of life, or all different ages, or all different creeds. And I have to deal with each and every one of them. And I have to learn, I try to learn them to know how to handle them and deal with things. So I kind of subscribe to the same thing in this business. Like, there could be 40 different people in this community, and I just know the ones that I can work with and the ones that probably I shouldn't. and vice versa. And that's okay. But that would be the only negative that I find. But like I said, that's life. It's just the real world.
And just really quick, so far as Wolf's question, there are not fees to per
Yes.
se for a seller to pay. I know, don't. There are no fees for us to sell on Instagram. There are no fees that we pay to YouTube. We all universally, if we're using PayPal, will pay a fee to utilize PayPal's service. So I usually just say it's like 4%. It's not exactly 4%, but out of every dollar that you would send your seller, they're roughly getting 96 cents. Again, that's an approximate. It's not an exact, but it's just an easy way to do
Well,
that.
and I can kind of elaborate on what I kind of see in the chat. I'll give you a quick example. Where I'm at, there's about 17 antique stores, and there are some that are 100,000 square feet, and I'm 4,400. When I took over my business, we were about 2 months from closing. The previous owner had just ran it into the ground, and if I didn't take it over, there was going to be, at the time, somebody was going to sell on eBay. So that meant you could come in and see the things, but you'd have to buy them on eBay. Well, in the meantime, I was able to purchase the store because they had just backed out and I got in. Well, since my store was so depressed, let's say, dealers that were up the street in some of the Cadillac style stores referred to my shop as a dumping ground. So they would rent booths at my store. And if it didn't sell up at the Precious store up the street 5 miles, they literally would come in my store and say, all right, I'm going to dump this here. And my store was, so I'm standing in my new store as a new entrepreneur, and they're addressing my shop as the dumping ground, literally. And it became, so it drove me and Tina even harder to prove them wrong. And as I sit here today, my store is just as competitive as any of those large ones. And on some aspects, my store is excelling where they're losing. But same goes for this community. It's all people's perspective. There's people who think, oh, well, that person may not, look like, let's just cut through the you know what. I mean, people profile, people judge one another. And there's probably sellers out there that won't sell with somebody because of the way they look, because of the way they act, because of, their sex, their creed, whatever. And that's okay. But again, I say that's the real world. And that's what I even deal with up here with a brick and mortar. My store was no different than theirs. It just needed to be turned around and managed properly. And I kept doing that. I always joke where I'm at. I'm the black sheep, and on the wrong side of the turnpike, the Pennsylvania Turnpike divides us where we're at. So I always joke, wrong side of the tracks, we're on the wrong side of the turnpike. But yeah, that's all I just wanted to say in the chat. I understand that there are going to be sellers that don't want to sell with one another, and that's okay. That's our world. We don't all have to work with one another and see eye to eye on things. It's the smartest thing is to make sure we get with people that we can help one another and we can boost them up and bring good sales, merchandise and sales. That's the positive to do.
Well, I think, though, too, a lot of it is, and I think that you inadvertently bring up a really good point, just because, and again, this was before, you can go back and look at the video. For me, and I think that I can speak for a lot of people because I share this sentiment, and I say that because I judge it on the comments that I see, is that it's not really the size of a store that matters. Because I think that we have all universally gone in, we've seen this store, it's huge. Certainly there's going to be something that we find in there, and we go in there, and for whatever reason, whether it's the quality of the merchandise, it's the price of the merchandise, a lot of times it's the price of the merchandise, we end up walking away with nothing. Mm-hmm. Then when you go into this unassuming smaller store and you're left and right and you don't know what, and you walk down the first aisle and you've already got a cart full or a basket full, it's never, for me, it's never been about this is a big store, this is a small store. It really is the quality of the items that you have chosen and the prices in which you've chosen to do that with.
And that goes for live sales as well.
Yep, you're right.
And I would add to that list the interaction that you have with the people who are working there. Yeah. And that is no different than on the live sales. The buyers on YouTube and on Instagram are smart people. they know who they want to watch and who they don't want to watch. And I don't think a lot of sellers, I don't want to say a lot of sellers, but I think there are sellers who don't think about that. People will follow and continue to watch those people who they sense are doing the right thing for them. I think when we create a community, and you two do this really well, where buyers feel like they're part of the experience, I think that's a great thing. And LaDonna mentioned something in the chat earlier, which I think one of the two of you actually said at one point, which is there is enough vintage for everyone. We don't need to outcompete one another. The number of times that I bought something earlier in the week and I saw Michael Todd selling it later that week, I thought I got such a great score. These two head bases that no one had ever seen before.
I know, I saw that. I was like, Bill has it.
I was like, Michael Todd found them in the same week. That was crazy. But again, there's enough for all of us. It's okay. We don't have to, we can treat each other well. Both seller to seller and seller to buyer.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and I think that, there are a lot of live sales right now. A lot, both on both YouTube and Instagram and Facebook and whatnot. And, there's a lot going on right now. And and I said this before, and it's kind of like the survival of the fittest in some way, shape, or form. The things that you're bringing, it has to be like when I'm going out and I'm shopping for things for live sales, I'm trying to find things that I perceive that you can't just walk into any place and find. Do I buy some bread and butter things? Absolutely. If you can get things for a good price and you got a good cat figurine, cat figurines sell well. The little angels, the month of the year angels, those are what I consider like bread and butter type of items. But, curating the more obscure things, like one of a kind things, that's why I'm really getting into this ephemera, mainly because it's a challenge for myself, because I'm seeking out these time capsules in many instances. And it's just something that is not going to be a cookie cutter thing that you can see at every place. So I guess as a live seller, then I think that's maybe something that everyone needs to kind of keep in the back of their mind, is like, when I walk in, I'm always thinking about what can I find that's weird, wacky, and wonderful, wacky, and wonderful,
Unique.
or just unique, or something that you're not seeing on every Goodwill shelf at every Goodwill, like, Sarah the bean crock, that bean crock, or, certain things that you see all the time. Because if you consistently bring the same old things, people are going to be like, they're going to get bored with it.
And for me, Misty, I never looked at ephemera until I started watching your. For me, I felt like it took too much time. I'm interested in it, but I wouldn't do it. And I love the fact that Michael has made Weller a household name now. I've collected it for years. I love it. So I think that's the other power of this online community, is connecting people to objects from the past that they might not have the opportunity to see every day, or that they don't know a lot about. I think, again, ephemera, I'm like, I'll spend 2 hours in a store now looking through it.
Oh, me too. And you're just like looking at all the pictures, and then you're like looking at all the things that are in their little curio cabinets back in the corners, and then you're looking on the backs. Are they signed? Do they have a name on them? And I don't know. It's just, to me, that part is fascinating. Or even like the books, the inscriptions on the insides, that kind of tells a story of things too. And what appeals to me is what would be considered somebody's discarded items that they didn't want anymore, but that tells somebody's story. That was their life in that moment in time. And that's just, I don't know, that just appeals to me.
Well, and I've always been fortunate in stepping into this community that this is my life. This is what I do. I have a store that have 40 active dealers. And when they say to me, I'm not selling, well, that's what I'm going to tell them. You need to have unique things. You need to know what's popular. Honest to Pete, if you would have told me 15 years ago that fairy lamps were going to be hot, I'd have told you, you're out of your mind, but but I'm at least in my field, even in watching some of the shop alongs or watching other sales, I've seen and been in my shop enough to know what I think is common or isn't. So that's why I'm fortunate enough that in coming to a live sale, I'm going to have maybe unique things. And I don't want people to think, oh, well, how's he getting these great things? It's only because for 15 or 20 years, if I've seen a Moon and Star compote, yet I see one in milk glass, I know that's super rare compared to a green or red. So I'm going to bring the white one to my sale instead of, in my mind, wasting you with the red or green one. Now, another person who isn't in my position yet goes into a store once every month may think that red or green one's very rare. It's just considering the source and the circumstances. So I toe the line with that too, because I don't want to also then be selling with other people who think, oh, well, he brings all the good stuff. And I can't. Well, I think I've also viewed it as if I'm bringing good stuff, it will entice you to also maybe want to sell with me, because maybe more eyes will be on me because I'm bringing said thing. So, and trust me, I'm talking in the second person. I'm not necessarily saying I think I have all the great rare stuff. I'm just saying that I can see where that could also be a situation in these live sales with people.
Well, you know what? And let's touch on this and let's do Leisha then. I think I'm selling Leisha, right? Leisha, let me know if I'm butchering it, please. Oh my God, it went right out of my head. No, but I think that at the end of the day, again, it's going to doing that or feeling that kind of way. Though, Jason, for me, I've never, quite frankly, have ever felt like I shouldn't or I couldn't bring the good things. But I also think that a lot of that is because of the people that I have done business with, Misty, Sarah, David. It's not even a question of if, but it very much is we need to bring our good stuff. We think that individually, but we all hold that same concept collectively. So I've never felt like I've been in competition with somebody that I'm selling with directly or indirectly. My competition is with me, myself, and I, and wanting to provide, again, as Bill said, part of the experience, in my opinion, or the way that I am going to conduct my business is by bringing you guys things that are exciting or unique or dynamic, hard to find, rare, scarce, whatever adjective you want to put on it, because it's part of the experience. It's not a question of, do I want everybody or do I think everybody's going to buy them? No. But do I think that that creates an excitement and a uniqueness and something? It's like, again, I want to be a store. I want to be the small store that I might be small, but you walk in there and you're like, oh my gosh, look at all this stuff. That's the kind of presence that I want to have. But fortunately, I've never felt a need to compete with somebody else.
No, and I've Jeffrey and I will have several videos of us going shopping together because we were just together the weekend before last. And I gotten a lot of compliments before on videos where I'm shopping with someone and they're like, why are you shopping with him? He's your competition. And it's like, you know what? He is, but he's not. I mean, there were so many times that like in a video, we would find things kind of at the same time. And then he would be like, oh, I think that you should get this, or, oh, I think that you should get that. Or are you going to get that? If you're not going to get it, then I might. It is a very, it's a competition, but it's not. Does that make any sense?
Right. No, it's right. Well, me and Michael, we shop together a couple times and it's the same exact way. Like, and I've been doing this for, 20 years.
Listen,
I do the same thing. I've shopped with, co-sellers, not on platforms, but co-sellers that we've sold in shops together. And it's the same way. We've always been like, oh, you do kitsch or you do glass. We always, and it's always worked out.
You want to see your friends succeed.
Exactly.
You want to see them do great things. You want to be there cheering them on and seeing them do great things. But also as a friend, and Michael will be the first to admit that if he would see me not doing something, like if I'm like slacking or if I'm not, pulling my weight or something, he, as my friend, he is going to tell me, and vice versa. As his friend, I will tell him, because that's what you do as a friend. You build each other up. You're real with them. If he tells me, Misty girl, you've got to get it together, I'm not going to take offense to that. I might pout about it for, a time or two. Luckily, he's never had to tell me that.
No, I was about to say,
but I mean,
what's really going on behind that curtain?
But if he did, then, as my friend, I know that he is seeking the best for me, and vice versa.
Right.
Yeah. And sometimes I think that's, that's an interesting thing. And again, that kind of a rapport, that kind of a relationship, one, you have to have two people that agree on that point, that define friendship in that same way. But just as Jason was saying earlier, a lot of times, for whatever reason, I'm not going to get into it, but I think a lot of times people feel like it's the best or it's the right thing to do, but it's not who they are authentically. And maybe it's conceptually a way in which they want to be, or a way in which they want to be perceived to be, perhaps, is more. And it's performance, right? And it takes time to understand that maybe not everybody wants to be held accountable. There are people that do see it as a competition. There are people that don't want to sell with people who are bringing really good things because maybe they're just not able. The resources, the places around them, maybe they're not able to kind of bring that kind of unique or quality item. And that's okay. But at the end of the day, what it all boils down to, in my opinion, is personal integrity, self-respect, and respect for others. So again, we have to be able to hold ourselves accountable first and foremost. We have to be honest with ourselves first and foremost, so that we can extend that to other people that we interact with personally and, of course, professionally.
Well, and
none of us, just really quickly, I don't think any of us have sold on Whatnot. If anybody doesn't know, really quickly, Whatnot is an app. It is a live auction app. In my experience, from what I've seen on Whatnot, it's very, I would say, predominantly male driven, 40 and under. It's not necessarily like, you're not going to see little Miss Lulu mannequin back here, or a Humpty Dumpty or a mermaid figurine. It's like comic book vinyl.
They're trying. I've been invited to sell on Whatnot, and I'm just like,
well,
who's going to come?
Well, I think George, last time we were on, George said he was going to, and I tried to go the next day, and it is not user friendly. At least I didn't personally find it user friendly. So I hope I'm not offending anybody. And I could not even find his sale or navigate it that simply to even understand it. So when that happens to me, I'm that typical human that if it doesn't make sense to me, I just walk away from it.
It's not my demographic. Right. I mean, my demographic is me, and I'm not on Whatnot. I mean, my demographic is my age and older. I mean, I'm pushing 50, and I'm not on, I'm still calling. I don't even get on the TikTok. It's like that.
Yeah, I don't either. And I caught the TikTok too, and it drives Tina nuts. And I I always say the TikTok, or dial this up for me. And
dial it up.
Dial this up.
Dial it up. Dial it up.
Yeah. So again, and I think that it's great. Nobody's poo-pooing on Whatnot. I think at the end of the day, if you think exactly, if you think that it works for you and you put the time and the effort, hopefully, that's the drive for any of us, is that we invest the time, the effort, the energy into it, and we grow and cultivate something out of it, then do it up.
It's a new platform that I think, when done correctly and after some of the kinks, well, the thing that's great about it though is that this will be the greatest thing about it, is that your buyers they're in the system. So when they pay, when they get something, they're paying then. Like
right then and there.
Right then and there. There isn't you got to wait 3 days.
I don't send
invoices. I'm gonna send you a reminder.
How do they do that, I wonder, though, so far as shipping? Is there like a standard shipping rate that you have to?
Well, I don't know, but I'm certain that you will have to ship. There is a criteria, I am sure, that you have to get your things shipped out within,
But how do you collect shipping? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, because you pay, just as Misty was saying, is that if I put up a mannequin bust, I don't know where it's going. You know what I mean? So you'll pay for the item, but then do you have to pay for the shipping?
Well, I
Like,
wonder if
are
they
you
kind of.
invoiced separately?
I wonder if they handle it like an eBay of sorts. Like eBay had gathered enough information from years of transactions that they can help you estimate what said thing is going to cost. Like I don't maybe I use eBay wrong when I've sold on eBay.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Makes sense. Which
So
is what
that,
you do on eBay. That's what I've done on eBay. Like
yeah,
they ask you for the weight when
yeah.
you're doing your listing, and then it helps you say, do you want it to be calculated for the buyer per their zip code, or do you want to set a fixed price? So they probably subscribe to the eBay format of shipping.
That's interesting.
Well, I
It's
mean, like I
through
said,
the
it's just another
platform, and then additional items are $1 more show.
Wow.
That could get pretty sticky depending on what you're shipping.
Yeah, like 15 pieces of Pyrex. Could you imagine?
Ooh,
Oh my.
no.
Yeah,
Going
no,
to
good point.
Washington State.
I
Wow.
think that there before there are like things like we are selling. I think there some kinks would have need to be worked out because that would be a little tricky.
You know, this is interesting. Beth is saying over the years, eBay has become less seller friendly.
Yeah, I agree with that.
They
Do
have
you think that YouTube will get less friendly to live sellers?
I mean, people have said for years now, and people have asked me, gosh, probably once a week, when do you think the YouTube train's gonna be over? And is it the YouTube selling train's gonna be over soon? YouTube's gonna take a cut. So far that they haven't. I'm not gonna put it back past that they wouldn't in the future. But I'm not gonna worry about it right now.
It can't. It can't. It's virtual QVC. It's vintage QVC is what it is. QVC will never go away. Home Shopping Network will go away. They've stood the test of time.
I think we're talking about YouTube, Google basically taking a cut
Right.
because one thing that Google doesn't
okay.
say is y'all know that I turn my super chats off, so you cannot send me a super chat. I've turned them off because if you send someone a super chat, Google keeps 30% of that. So you're sending someone, $5. Well, Google keeps 30% of that $5. And I just, because I think that a viewer is sending you that little tip, just to be kind, just to be nice. And then Google's like,
well,
and so
I mean,
I'm not going to give them that.
I'll really complicate what we're talking about because as a brick and mortar on a mom and pop level, there was buzz when this was all coming to pass. These auctions, let's call them, like in the state of Pennsylvania, to hold an auctions, you need a license. You can't now. What's happened is that these people aren't having like the show up and about, that kind of auction. They're putting it online in an eBay form, but they still have to have an auctioneer's license. So there's always been that buzz like, oh, wait a minute. So now but then what's the difference if I sit here and do it this way or I hold an auction on eBay?
And your verbiage has to be different depending on what state you live in. I mean, I live in a state that it doesn't matter. I can say auction.
Right.
I don't do auctions. I do offer ups. Thank you.
Well, okay, no, but you see what I mean? Like, so in essence, if Google was going to take a cut, well, then at some point, or municipalities or, states going to say, oh, if you want to have this and you're from such and such, you need to buy a right to do, buy the license or something. I don't think it would ever come to that, but that's something that always comes up in a chatter when I say to people that don't utilize YouTube or Instagram what I do, because you have to realize none of my dealers understand any of this. I've tried to explain to them how this works. This is all foreign to them. They don't understand.
They're
any
old school dealers. They're the OG dealers.
Yes, exactly.
I don't foresee, because realistically, there isn't enough. The only way in which they would do it that would be detrimental to the actual seller YouTube would be like, well, if you have a sale and you sell 10 items and those 10 items sell for $1,000, we're going to take 10% because you're using our platform, but we're not. We're
Right,
not.
right.
Let me try to get myself together here. So, like with eBay, they are charging you a fee because they're actually providing you a service,
Yeah.
Right.
whereas YouTube is a free service.
Mhm.
So if they start charging me as a seller to utilize this service, then they have to start charging everybody,
Everybody.
every content creator that
Right.
would go live. Does that make
Yep.
sense?
Absolutely.
YouTube isn't doing anything for me other than providing me the IT to go live. That's it. I actually, if anything, it would be in Google or YouTube's. Google owns YouTube.
Right.
Um, I actually see them as trying to capitalize on it to
Yeah.
the point of having their own in-house kind of auction or QVC style because people are more, it's a younger demographic. A lot of QVC or HSN,
Yeah.
they're aging out, and you're seeing now like late 30s to 40s plus. It's more about YouTube, so it makes more sense to bring those things onto platform that more people are using. In television, people are not watching traditional
Right. Like
cable programming.
and I'll even speak to Sunday nights. That's why I'm not active in your chat for iVintage. It's because we watch you on the big screen. Like what I
Me
do
too.
is I mirror from my phone. So what we do is we use the phone, so I can get into the chat if I want to. But I mirror from my phone. I go into the YouTube app and I use it, and then we mirror it on the television. And we watch you guys as if it's QVC. And if I want to bid, then I activate the phone, and that's where it's a little different. So for me, it is, and that is, it's like a vintage QVC. And I don't really think it's going to go away anytime soon. I think it actually has leaps and bounds to grow. And I think that if the right sellers, join together and have the same purpose and thought, I think they could grow together,
Let's not put too much information out there.
Oh, well, yeah, no, yeah, exactly. Whatever Michael says, whatever Michael or Misty says.
So I guess guys in the chat, we've been talking about people having live sales, and Jason and Bill are newer, I guess, at the live sale
Online.
Online.
Yeah.
They're old school sellers, but like just on the online platform. What and this is something that I want to talk about because I'm working on possibly, if I can get my act together and get it all scheduled, next Monday night, I want to have several different buyers on. And we're going to have an open forum about what buyers expect from their sellers. And we're going to pull the curtain back and have like a constructive criticism moment. We'll see. It's kind of scary, but we're going to see. But I mean, so as far as the chat goes, what are some of the things that you all look for when you're watching a live YouTube sale? Like, what are some things that are maybe a turn on or a turn off? What are some things I had seen? I think it was Southern Buckeye was looking for some like steampunk stuff. Girl, I got all kinds of that kind of stuff. You need to send me an email what you're looking for. But I mean, what kinds of things would you like? I mean, we like to sell kitschy and ephemera, but like maybe we need to think outside the box a little bit more. So I guess I'm asking the chat to maybe don't be scared. This is a safe place. It's an open forum. So just like, what do you like? What do you don't like? That kind of thing.
Feedback would be awesome. I think it could help. I'll speak for myself, curate and bring different things.
Absolutely.
So like I'm just following what I see. What I see is trends. That's all I do when I curate.
Constructive criticism is essential, I think, in any workspace that you all, no matter what job you've had, you've gone in for your reviews, your yearly reviews, and they tell you all the things that and they always have to add something of improvement.
Don't
Turn
you
off
guys?
seeing the person's chewing gum. Yeah.
I could see that.
I sometimes will, and I've had people get really nasty, like leave mean comments. You know, if you've been working all day and you're having a sale, and you're having a sale through lunch, and sometimes I might pull out some jelly beans, or I might munch on a few jelly beans or some cashews from time to time. And they're
Yeah,
like,
I think Michael should do an entire boho sale.
Oh,
Boho.
no.
50 items
That's
of
it.
boho.
Now we won't
I
be back,
agree.
Bill. Thanks now.
Bill, you
Now
got to
we
put
won't
your
have a
pinky
snack
out for
sale.
the rest of the sale now.
It was in the chat. I was just voicing what someone else did already.
Okay,
No.
Colleen, can I comment on Colleen's? I appreciate when the seller starts
okay.
bidding a little low. Okay, so yes, I agree with that. But sometimes if I have, let's just say, a fairy lamp, and I have been known to pay way up for a fairy lamp, I'm not necessarily going to start some things at a lower price, because we'll be here all day. I think on certain items, you have to go ahead and start it at what a fair market value price is. It's kind of a dance. You want to do it a little bit lower, but yet you can't. I can't treat my sales as if they are a thrift store. I'm not buying things at a thrift store. So all the things that I'm bringing, I am paying up for. So I can't. I don't mean that to sound kind of bitchy in any way, but I mean, I can't sell my things too low. I have to sell them at a price that I feel comfortable with.
Well, you're not getting the items for free. If you were getting everything for free, you could do thrift store prices, because just like a thrift store, they're getting them for free.
Well, I can attest to a brick and mortar. I cannot tell you the number of years I've stood in my store and have watched customers come in and leave in a tiff and say, they got all this for nothing. Can you believe the prices they have on this stuff? It's all in opinion. And, if like, for example, Misty, if you bring a Fenton fairy lamp to a sale and you started at $150, I'll just make this up. For me, that doesn't offend me. I think that's cheap because I know the fair market value of the lamp you're bringing. And that goes back to something that I was taught years ago from an old school dealer. And it holds true to this platform, to whether an eBayer or even if you're at a brick and mortar. Never be smarter than your buyer. I think when me and Bill first met, I kept saying that when him and I had spoke. If you think about what I'm saying, you never want to be smarter than your buyer. I think that even holds true in how you price things. You need to not be smarter. You need to know who you're selling to. You need to know who you're selling to.
Okay. Can you extrapolate? I mean, you're saying don't be smarter than your buyer, and you need to know who. But tell me.
Okay, I'll give you an example. So let's say you're selling a fairy lamp. Let's say you're selling, and now I'm going away from what Misty's saying at a live sale. So let's say you bring in a fairy lamp, and let's say it's a vintage fairy lamp, like the kind that Misty liked, the one that they actually hung with wire on trees, okay? And you put that in a showcase, and you put $300 on it, and it doesn't sell. Well, it doesn't sell because the kind of customers that are coming in don't know what that is and don't understand it and don't appreciate that that is a fair price, if not a cheap price for it. So what you have to do is, if you want to sell fairy lamps, go get yourself a pretty Viking fairy lamp or go get yourself a pretty Fenton lamp, price it for $300, and I guarantee it's going to sell because those are the kind of clients and customers that are coming in your door. Now, what happens is the seller is smarter than who's really coming in the door. They may be selling a real antique, and this holds true to a million different scenarios. But I have always subscribed to that, and when I've purchased things and brought them to sell in my own store or even on eBay and they haven't sold, I don't get angry or mad at nobody wants it. I say to myself, did I bring it to a market that doesn't get what I'm selling? I'm sure even Michael, I'll go out on a limb and say with Weller, things like that. If it's a $300 piece of pottery, somebody's going to think that's ludicrous. Or the fact that somebody's starting it in a live sale at set amount. Well, that's just because you aren't educated. I'm not saying the consumer's stupid. Right. It just isn't their niche and they don't know it. But you don't want to be smarter than them, and you need to also consider you guys know from retail, you need to know who's walking in your door, whether it's virtually or brick and mortar. And that also then speaks to, I'm sorry, Bill, just speaks to how you're going to price your things. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I wanted to say, Jason, I think we have an advantage when you have experience selling in retail in person, because you have longer periods of time to talk to that person and see where they're coming from.
Yes.
And you see that all the time, where people overvalue something that
Mm-hmm.
maybe doesn't have the value that they think it does, and then undervalue the things that really do have more value, and want you to sell you those things that are high value, because they'll say, well, no one's buying it. Well, it's really just that collector hasn't walked into the door yet.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah. And that's very true. And that's one thing, when my brick and mortar was open, that's one thing that my dad would always say, because I'd get so sick of looking at something. Like, sometimes you could come into my store, and if I am sick of looking at something, and say I had $50 on it, and you walk in this door and you just look at it with one eye, like not even both your eyes, just one eye, I'm like, you can have it for $10.
Oh, I've had those days. Like, literally, when if they've looked at it too long and I'm tired of seeing it, what's it going to take for you to buy it to get it out of here? And that's what I'm thinking. I mean, I'm not necessarily.
Oh, I'll give the deal a day. I'm coming down to $10. I had 50 on it. You can have it for $10. And they look at you like, really? And I'm like, yeah, I'll carry it out to your car and everything for you. So yeah.
But I guess, I don't know. Don't you guys? I mean, I'll admit, when you bring something to a sale, if you started too low, it could sell at your opening offer. So
that's happened.
We need to buffer ourselves, because if we bring a fairy lamp to this platform and we start a $300 fairy lamp at $100 and it sells, that's foolish, I think, for us, when we then could take it to eBay, Etsy, I don't know, a brick and mortar, take it over to Facebook Marketplace. I mean, most of us are in this to make money, whether it's to support ourselves or to support our hobbies. I mean, that's why we're probably all doing this. We're passionate. That's what drives me, at least, in a brick and mortar, that I've seen good days and bad days. You got to be passionate when you're digging through things and cleaning it. It's got to drive you somehow. That's always been my basis. So, I don't want to ever insult my buyers, but I do take them into consideration when I figure my starting price. I say, as a buyer, is this fair for me? But as a seller, is it fair for me? And I try to come to that middle ground.
Well, Jan brings up a good point. A turnoff would be telling people they're getting a deal because it's not going for what they wanted.
Bring in all this up.
Different, but I've done that. I 100% have.
Yeah.
As a seller, but that's the thing. If I know the value of something on, let's call like eBay, let's call that an open market, if you will. But if something is going for 2 to 3 times higher than what I'm selling it for, in my head, I'm not getting what I thought I was going to get out of it, or what I know that it goes for on the open market. So you are getting it. Like, I'm not doing that in like a selfish, self-righteous, like, I can't believe you're getting this.
I can remember standing in my store 10 years ago and talking to other dealers that used to do mail order, that used to buy the price guides, that's how they used to conduct commerce. And then we all realized, does eBay realize the power that they have? Like, they are now dictating what they think the market is, because it's being driven by consumers. Then that's when they started taking their information and making worth point and things like that. But I wanted to just say one thing, and I don't know if you guys have ever thought of this, but as a seller on this platform, I've wondered how many sellers out there are buying something and bringing it to market just because they want attention. How many people are doing this and getting on and having these sales because they just want to go live and get attention? Like, for example, did somebody go to an antique store and buy a mug for $5 and now they're starting it at $2? Now, see, that makes it unfair and an unfair advantage, because now you have people that are doing this quote, and I'm not, look, this is my opinion, but I'm saying quote the right way. The right way is you purchase it to resell. I don't care if you buy something at $30 and start it at $30 and get $100 for it. But I do have a problem if somebody is going out and buying Lucite candles and starting them at $5 when you know darn well they paid more than that for them. they're really
driving the market down.
Yeah, and they're really making it unfair for me, who could be selling at the same time on the same platform and is legitimately selling them what I would say the right way. Do you know what I mean? Like, I purchased them for 25, I'm starting them at 40, something like that. Then somebody that's like, oh, well, I want to pull viewers away from them, or, oh, I want to do this, so I'm going to start all my stuff dirt cheap so they all come over. Have any of you guys ever thought that?
Yeah, I think about that a lot, Jason, actually, and I'm glad you brought it up, because one thing that occurs to me, and it's actually one of the things that probably made me delay even doing this for so long, is I think there are so many sellers now, and I think we all have different acceptable levels of profit. Right. Some of us need more profit than others. And for me, I think that's one of the reasons I delayed for so long, because I know that there are people who literally are feeding their families by doing this work. So I think that's a consideration. And I think that's one of the reasons why we see the same items starting at wildly different prices across platforms and across sellers, because in addition to what you said about people buying things for retail and then selling them for retail, I think we all have different levels of acceptability of what sort of our margin should be.
Right. But see,
that's incredibly gracious of you to even put that kind of thought or the recognition of that into your decision to sell. I think that's extraordinary. And I think that really speaks to a lot of personal integrity and character. So, wow, that was impressive to hear somebody say that.
But I also will acknowledge the fact that I have the privilege to say that. So, and I think
kudos again for the recognition.
This community doesn't talk about privilege as much. We have the privilege to be collectors. I have the privilege to own multiple collections. I have 500 knee huggers in Rubbermaid containers in my basement, because I started my collection 25 years ago when you couldn't give them away. I got them for $1 a piece. Yep. Wait till this Christmas, people. There's going to be a knee hugger explosion, because they need to get out there in the world.
So if I have knee huggers, I'm going to sell them now.
The market's going to get really saturated.
Well, actually, that's if I can convince myself to get rid of them, because they are my babies. I don't know if anyone's ever seen. They're posted on my Instagram if you want to see. They're there.
It's impressive.
That link is down below in the description, guys. So really good reminder, if you're not following Bill or Jason on Instagram, please make sure the links to their Instagrams are right below in the description. All you have to do is click you're going to need to have Instagram, but click the link, hit follow. Again, just show a little bit of support. There's no financial interest in this at all. It's just a little bit of encouragement. Don't forget our YouTube links are there too.
Right.
And to elaborate on what Bill was saying is, I've always said this even in my brick and mortar. You have to ask yourself, am I a collector who sells, or am I a reseller who's a collector? And I think anybody, whether you're in the chat as a consumer or another reseller, you have to ask yourself that, and you need to be real with yourself. And that's going to set the tone for your perception on how you view a lot of things that are discussed, I mean, and then then you muddy the waters when you come to these platforms, because some of us own brick and mortar. Some of us just hop on here and just do it for fun. And I'm not saying there's right or wrong. Just saying it's the way it is.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead. No, because I was going to address Nanny Fufu.
Yeah, I was. Go ahead. I'll let you do it.
No, okay. So Nanny Fufu is seeing something that I think most resellers are used to seeing. And Nanny Fufu is saying it's hard as a buyer if you watch somebody buy it at a thrift store cheap for, say, $2 and selling it for $20 or $30. I'm not going to say that that's not a valid point. I think it's a valid point, depending on how you want to look at it. From a business aspect, if I see Misty going out to a thrift store and she's finding something for $2 and she's making, and I want to say 30, I'm like, yeah, girl, get that money. That's for me as a business wanting to look at another business, but because she's my friend, so I want her to do well. It is a free market. At the end of the day, if I buy something for $2, it's a job, true. But let me put it to you in this perspective, because we've used this analogy before. Most of us go shopping at Walmart, okay? You go into Walmart,
Grudgingly.
and there's a reason that we are buying things as a consumer cheaply. That's because Walmart is buying them cheaply.
Mhm.
So when we go in and we spend $20 or $30 on something, Walmart actually probably spent less than $2. So that's how they've been able, over the course of a number of years, leverage their business. Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
Every store that we walk, well, not every store, but most stores that we are walking into, gas is a good example, jewelry, retail, jewelries, K's and Zales, I'm not knocking them. They've got really nice, friendly workers there, I might add. Um, but those things have extraordinarily high markups on them for a reason. And the reason is because we're paying for the convenience. A lot of times there's a premium on that, but at the end of the day, that business is there to make money. So that's consumerism, that's capitalism. That very much is the way that the world works. So I get it, and I don't want to be dismissive of what you're saying. I think maybe it's harder because it's so personal that we see this one individual going in there and we see that one individual making that, where at Walmart it's a corporation. We don't know what that corporation is paying for. Is all we see is that we're getting something cheaply.
Right.
So it's the same.
And the not okay. The thing of it is, when you go shopping and you make shopping content as part of your YouTube, people see what you do pay for things.
Yeah.
Or they'll remember something that you paid this amount for it. And but the thing of it is, like, I don't, like, I am not, my business model is not to sell things for $6 and $8. That's not what I try to keep on my, and now my business has grown and things have changed as my business has grown, but I have a number in my mind of what I would like my average sale price to be. So when I'm out shopping and sourcing for things, I have that number in the back of my mind. And if I think that I can keep it around that average sale price, then it's worth purchasing for me. But that's something that I've learned as, as time has gone by. It's not something that, I did from the very, very beginning, because I didn't. I mean, I was just buying whatever I could turn a buck on, or I could think. But now it's just not, to me, it isn't worth the time, because I do wrap I do wrap things very nicely to my customers when I send them out to them. And that's important to me. And so for me to sell something for $8 and then, put the time and energy of all the other things that I put into my shipping, then that just doesn't make a lot of sense for me.
What I've never understood is the mentality of people that think that. That's not the way this country works. That's not the way free enterprise works. You don't fault General Motors because it takes them $10,000 to make a Cadillac that they sell for $75,000. So why would you fault somebody for walking into a thrift store and buying something at a wholesale, which is a thrift store, at $2 and making 30 for it? It just never, even before I was in this business, it never made sense to me, because years ago there were junkers that went to yard sales and bought things, and then they had their own yard sales. They were professional yard salers. You don't fault people for that. It just doesn't make sense to me. I think it's an emotional thing. Like, and it, for some reason, there's like this frowned upon. I don't understand it. That, like, even like Michael said, like Walmart, they're paying China, 5 cents for that shirt that you're paying $5 for, but that's okay. But because somebody walks into a Goodwill and picks up a fairy lamp, let's beat it to death, a fairy lamp, at $3 and sells it for $300. Now, all of a sudden, is that a crime? No, not at all. Because you know what? That person had the knowledge to do that. And it's because they retained that knowledge and they were able to know to buy that and where to take it. To me, you commend that person for being intelligent. See, this business years ago used to be all up here. It didn't used to be in your phone and at your fingertips, these people Googling and scanning barcodes. It used to be up here. And I'm that generation that's right in the middle of the people that was up here. So they were rewarded for the knowledge they kept.
And a real sort of reality now is that you're not going to find a $3 fairy lamp at Goodwill anymore.
Right.
What people think are thrift. I mean, if you haven't been into a thrift store lately, you need to go. Those of us who do this a lot, I probably source 5 times a week. I'm going to antique stores and hoping that I find people who were cleaning out estates and wanted to sell the big furniture and put all the little stuff in the boxes and didn't know what they were and are just bringing them to their booth to sell. Thrift stores are a thing of the past for the most part. I mean, I'll say I have a couple of honey holes that I wouldn't share with people if they lived in my area, but they are few and far between. It is difficult. When people say you got something for a thrift store price, that probably means you paid close to retail to it these days. And the Pyrex has been in the dishwasher for 4 years, and they're still charging $40 for that bowl.
Well, you might find a fairy lamp at Goodwill, but it'll be broken, or it'll have a chip on it, or it'll be...
I'm going to go on the record. I'm going to say something. The blessed goodwill that other people on this platform go to day in and day out, and now people are traveling to Lancaster to go to. I was just there a few hours ago, okay? It is horrible. There was nothing. I threw away better things in my own trash than that were in that. It was a moment in time. So take it from somebody that is where I used to go to, that same Goodwill that other people go to. I went to that place when I was 5 with my mother and grandmother, when it was Oshkosh Begosh, and then became Goodwill, okay? Trust me, it's a moment in time. It's a once and done, and Bill's exactly right. They are not the way they used to be. They're not the way they used to be.
Yeah, they're not. They're really not. And they are selling they're selling their things online. They have hired people that research and pull things from their donations, and they sell them online.
And you know what? And here's the thing, and I think everybody can agree. Right. They're a business, just like any other business.
They have every right to do that.
They can 100%, and how they choose to spend the money, or what they choose to spend the money on, or not. We can debate that. We can At the end of the day, it is what it is. A Goodwill is there. They are a business, and they're going to make money.
And it must be working for them, because they must have customers who are willing to do it. So you're absolutely right.
There you go. There you go.
I just prefer to shop from local.
And you guys are exactly right. As a shop owner, Bill hit the nail on the head. You want to go into that glass booth that the guy bought glass at an auction or an estate sale, and he has 2 boxes of Christmas that he knows nothing about.
Yeah.
Because he's putting $2 on those pixies, and he's the guy that I don't care. I'm mad that he's making $30 and someone's going in and getting them $2 pixies and making $30 on. But no, joking. But yeah, that Bill's exactly right. That's what you need to do.
Or good old-fashioned church sale.
Exactly. Those are the ones that you're going to find the good stuff at.
Well, I think Orange Tree brings up a really good point. It is about, I think that we are on the front of a new way in which vintage and antique goods are going to be handled and sold going into the future, because whether we are a collector or whether we are a reseller, because by and large it was go to the thrift store, go to the thrift store, go to the thrift store. With the advent of social media, it has been a double-edged sword. It has allowed other people, it's consumers, collectors, resellers, to see for things, look for certain things, go into a thrift store. The other edge to that sword is that it has shown the very company, Goodwill, Salvation Army, Savers. These are the things that we should be looking out for as a business, and they begin cultivating, curating them. Now, all of that said, just as Orange Tree is saying, I think that a lot of resistance maybe is because people aren't necessarily used to seeing the beginning through the end. And so there is going to be an adjustment period, and there may be people that are maybe a little bit more, wait a minute, you mean people are actually getting stuff for $2 and selling it for $30? Like, what? That's crazy. So there may be that kind of like, what's going on here right now moment for a lot of people.
See, I think when I learned it, I was like, now how can I figure it out and do it? That was where my mind went. Like, I remember being a small child and thinking, how did this work at the flea market, or how did this work? And then when I started to realize that they had to go somewhere cheaper to buy it and then sell it, I was like, I need to learn this because I want to do it.
I like Julie's comment because I've actually gone to church sales where the little old ladies have actually printed out the eBay, right? And,
yes.
We all know that just because something's listed on eBay doesn't mean that that's its value. So I think we also live in a time where people are overvaluing things that probably don't have as much value as they think they do, and obviously undervaluing others. But at the end of the day, I think, aren't we all just in this to make sure that the treasures are saved and are taken care of? So I think we need to consider that, because we are creating sort of this really big market. Not we, the world right now has this really big market for vintage and antique. And these things are traveling large distances to get to their destinations now, and they're going through multiple hands and handlers. And when I think about a place like Goodwill, and I don't want to pick on them, I just think about the process that our objects go through when they go into that system. I don't want to say it's true for all Goodwills, but I don't think that they experience the same love, care, and tenderness that a collector, and that's a concern.
It is. I can't tell you the number of times I've walked in and seen broken things, and when it's a fresh break. If it's porcelain and it is bright white, that's a fresh break. If it, is discolored, and that because I've watched them, because I've donated to thrift stores. I won't, and they throw it. They don't care, because their whole business model is it's free, and they'll just keep skimming and sifting. And if 5 things come, now it's different. Now you bring that same thing and donate it to me at my store, I'm going to take my time and go through each and every single thing and make sure that it's taken care of and gets to its new home.
Well,
I don't care.
Sometimes, though, I mean, I don't want to say that it's only eBay that's breaking or only Goodwill, because I know that people, when they're donating things, they're throwing stuff in a trash bag. They're just tossing it in a trash bag. They're moving. They don't want to deal with it. They're just going to take it to Goodwill. And so it could get broken in that transaction as well. But it's disheartening when you see things that are, because we've all had moments when we've looked at the shelves and we see something and we're like, oh gosh, but it's broken. Some people will still buy it. I mean, listen, I will buy broken things. I do buy chipped and broken things, depending on what they are. I'm much more pickier than what I used to be. It has to be something that I think as a beginner collector would want for an item. But,
I had a moment of silence today at the Goodwill. There was a Lefton lamb, 2 legs broken off, and it was a fresh break. And literally I stood there and I was like, wow. Like, that somebody back in the 1950s purchased this lamb, probably put it out every Easter and decorated. They enjoyed it and loved it for all those years. And then somehow, some way, it ended up getting into the system and getting completely destroyed, and is now sitting on this shelf with no legs.
See, I was about to highlight Sarah's comment, but because she just kind of triggered me a little bit, but I'll go ahead and do it. I know I saw it. She said, I found Batosi.
Michael?
For $5.99. We're not there now. It doesn't matter.
We're going there in July, Michael.
Riggered. I saw your bird. And let me tell you what, but see, this is where I'm at with it. Because I was like, Batosi. So do you know what I did? I saw Sarah's picture because she posted it on Instagram. And she posted what she paid for it, $5.99. And I was like, nosy me. I'm like, well, I need to look out for this Batosi, because Sarah's just raving about this Batosi. So I go on to eBay and I look up at these Batosi, and I find that same bird, and I was like, go ahead, Sarah Coleman. Though I think that you should sell it. I'm just saying, like,
she's not gonna sell it yet.
But that's what keeps us going back to those places, even though we know we're going to 90 out of 100 times walk out empty-handed, because we do. I found a Blanco double water pitcher there once for $1.99. I mean, those things happen, and they keep us going back.
It's very bohemian, Jana.
Jana, you must now put your pinky up for the rest of the show.
Girl, you got 40 minutes to keep that pinky up like that, too. Don't think I can't see you. Well, I think that that's a really interesting topic, though, too. I will say this, is that, believe it or not, I'm I'm gonna start kind of like a new video series, and the first one's gonna come out this video. So this Friday. I can't get into too much detail about it because that would be cheating. But it is going to involve Goodwill shopping.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm excited to see what you guys think about it. I think that the thing behind it though is that the popularity with Goodwill is because, again, I said this before, but it's accessible to so many people. I can't tell you how many times that I have seen, whether it's a comment in a video or it's while we're doing a sale or a chat. I'm shocked, especially being from Pennsylvania. A lot of the Northeast is very heavy in vintage and antique stores, but so many people live in areas they don't have antique or they have thrift stores. So that's what a lot of people have to work with. So I kind of wanted to keep that in mind. But I would also then encourage you to begin to look outside of thrift stores and look at more unconventional kind of things, so far as estate sales, online auctions, yard sales, garage sales, flea markets, because that typically is where you're going to find those more unique, high-end, collectible kind of items and still get good deals if you don't have antique or vendor malls.
And they're closer to the source where they came from, so they're more likely to still be in good repair.
Yeah.
True.
Can I just respond to Orange Tree's question? You know, the term reseller was new to me when I started watching YouTube and Instagram. I've always considered myself a merchant, and I know it's like an old time term, but my great grandmother and all my great aunts owned an antique store, and they always called themselves merchants. So that's what I've always thought of myself as. But I do think that the term reseller it has a lot of meanings right now in terms of, especially not on YouTube. I think it's a little bit more standardized, but on Instagram, gosh, there are so many resellers that sell so many different things.
Yeah.
It's just such a big, it doesn't capture the whole idea of vintage and antique to me.
The TikTok, they're really pressed on that reseller term. Like, don't go on there and say you're a reseller.
I got it. How about vintage curator?
Well, see, to play into what you guys have said, when I decided to name myself for Instagram, that's why I stayed with Mother Tucker's Antiques, because I thought that antiques stood apart from everybody. I think vintage is just too big of a broad word. You know, vintage is just too broad. But see, then again, if we want to critique like the name reseller, you know, people that call themselves flippers, people may not like that. You know, I remember in a previous time I was on with you guys, I discussed, you know, when you were called an antique dealer, they figured that you were a crook because you were hustling things and flipping things and selling things. And, you know, an antique dealer, and like, no offense to Bill, your family, but my family did this sort of stuff too. And there was a stigma like, oh, they know something, or though they're a crook because they bought the grandfather clock from the Millers down the street for $100 and they sold it for $5,000. It's just the nature of this business, and it's the nature of people that define it. I mean, I'm not saying there aren't crooks out there, but overall, I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with the word reseller. I mean, it's
well, I think that's interesting.
Curator. I'm going to consider myself now a vintage curator, because essentially that's what we're doing. I mean, I'm going out and curating things to sell.
But see, Jason, I think that you have an interesting point, because I quite frankly, for me and what I'm seeing in regards to social media, especially, and I say TikTok is the example, is because that's the new one for the younger generation.
Gotcha.
Is that the idea or the concept of when you see the term reseller on a younger geared platform, reseller is a bad thing.
Oh.
Right? They're the grimy ones. They're the ones that are out there putting the hustle on. And now hustle is not a good term anymore. Hustle has gone back to more closely resemble hustler, right? Like you're out there, you're kind of crooked. You know what I mean? Maybe some
like, so side hustle isn't a positive term anymore. I mean, if you were hustling, that meant you were moving and making and doing, and like, you know, like even in my business, if somebody sold in multiple antique stores, which that was the way you used to make that's when you were really an optimal antique dealer, if you sold in multiple stores. So that would be the equivalent to today's I sell on Instagram.
Putting a grind on. See, now you doing the grind, right? Your side hustle is the
Right.
grind. You got the grind. You got the grind on. Your
Right.
grind is like you're putting the work
That's
in.
not what I think of when I hear you got the grind
Misty,
on.
See, when I hear hustle, I almost hear like,
I'm thinking something completely different in my mind.
But then maybe this is where we all mesh together. It depends on, the demographics. It depends on the age. It depends on what part of the country you're from and how they define certain, words and things like that. That's where this gets interesting. But I didn't realize that over on TikTok that reseller was almost like a 4-letter word.
It is, because a lot of them, I didn't flip anybody off.
Wait a minute. Help me
Them
understand. Help me understand. So do the youngins think because you're a reseller, you're doing something wrong?
Yeah, it's like that goes back to kind of like the idea concept of how you would view antique dealer, that you're out there doing, and but a lot of it are like these TikToks that are now like, the big one was the brass swans.
Oh,
That
yeah.
was the latest one.
What? I don't understand any of this. Like, so what? Did somebody buy a brass? Like, now I'm
Someone at an antique mall left the Goodwill sticker on a brass swan, and the Goodwill sticker said something like $4.99,
Right.
but they had it priced at like $400.
I have a reel on my Instagram with that same experience.
Well, I remember that with the planter bill. But see, now I'll take it I lived it. So there I am with a dealer. So, for example, there I am manning the counter at my shop, and somebody comes up with something and they say, hey, I know that this dealer wants $50 for it, but I'd rather pay the $3.97 they paid at Goodwill. And I have a moment of, I'm going to kill my dealer when I see them, but then I have to play PR and be political. But
do you know what? An antique mall that I go to, that I shop at, and I like this idea, what they do is if the dealer left a Goodwill sticker on that merchandise, that's what the customer pays.
See, well, no, and I understand it. See,
and it's like it makes the dealer really be like, did I get all of the tags?
This is where this whole concept. This is where this whole concept blows my mind, because I worked at a place called the Mannheim Auto Auction. Okay. It is an auction where they sell used cars. Okay. So they sell the cars that come back from leases. Okay. I stood on the auction block and would watch Volkswagen Jettas go for $2,000 and knew that it then went to their lot and they were getting $18,000 for it. It's the reality. It's the way the world works. Yet you're telling me that there are younger generations that are frowning upon somebody who walked into a Goodwill and got a brass bird for $3.
Well, but here, let me put it to you like this, Jason. Okay. So if you're playing PR, why would you play PR with a customer who is looking at something that has a Goodwill sticker at $3.97 and your dealer wants to charge $60 for it? Who cares? It's no big deal. But it's the inverse. The concept is the inverse, right? To you as the seller, you're saying, yeah, but that's how they're getting their merchandise. But to the customer, just like what Nanny Fufu was saying, though, earlier, there is a concept, there is a truth to that, there's a validity to that. And as business owners, I think in more traditional senses, the online, it's a little bit harder, hence the learning curve. But you're playing like oh, yeah, I get it. You're kind of putting your diplomatic spin on it.
But I think as a human being, we have to realize we didn't write these rules. We didn't make the dollar system. We didn't make the barter system. That's the way commerce works. And that's just the way nature works. That's why that's why.
But you're providing them an experience. And you don't want your customers to come into your store and have the kind of experience where they feel like they're getting ripped off. Even though you as a consumer may not view, I think most of our buyers don't view it. Overall, we want to ensure that as many people as possible feel like they are having the best possible experience. And sometimes, as they say, ignorance truly is bliss.
Oh, ignorance is such bliss.
Maybe I'm reading and understanding what we're discussing differently than the reality of what we're discussing. I just didn't realize that there was this taboo as being called a reseller. That's if Walmart's buying a shirt from China for $2 and selling it for $10, they are a reseller. they purchased goods to sell. Just like if I went to a Goodwill and bought it for $2, I purchased that good intent to resell. Whether I went to a flea market and did the same thing, I'm doing nothing different than Goodwill or even the car dealership is. I know you guys aren't saying that, but I think I didn't understand that there's a community out there that frowns upon the word reseller.
Right. It has but just like the idea or concept to you, that antique dealer may have a lingering negative connotation to it. What is happening now is that younger generation, the idea or the concept of reseller, it equates to the same thing. It's the same sentiment applied to a different word. Same thing at the end of the day.
Well, then maybe if we're a bunch of old fuddy-duddies, we got to try to educate them that it isn't wrong. It's okay to buy something cheap.
I'm okay. Let the young ones not get on the game.
All right.
I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it. You know what? Here's the thing, though, too. I saw that, and it didn't really bug me at all. I was just like, whatever. I mean, I think at the bottom, the end of the day, if you are providing your customers with good service, you're selling your items, you're getting their items to them in a timely manner, you are answering their questions, you are respecting them, and and there's a flip side to that too. As a seller, we also would like to get, we appreciate respect as a little bit as well, when you do send an invoice to, pay it in a timely manner. But I think that in and of itself ultimately will continue to grow you'll continuously have successful sales if you are kind of following a general rule. As far as, in my opinion, your sale should not be longer than 3 hours, unless it's like a special marathon, like New Year's Eve, something like that. You're going
to we only got 3 hours then tomorrow.
Huh?
So we only got 3 hours then tomorrow.
I know. Well, sometimes we go 3.5 hours because we added the 5 and dime to the end of our sale, which is really, really good. And I've considered just having an entire sale 5 and dime. I know Michael's like, what? But I mean, I got a lot of stuff that I could sell at $10.
Misty, I'll do a 5 and dime with somebody.
Okay.
God knows I got a lot of stuff.
Misty's booked until July.
I think that you should do lots. I think that you should sell lots. Why don't you do flats? Like at an estate sale or a garage sale or a yard sale, you could do flats. Do you know what I'm saying? So that way you're bumping your unit cost up.
Maybe.
And you're burning through it. And that way, to me, I'm always like, time is money, money is time.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're going to do it, then you have to maximize. That's why Michael's thinking that. But Jen, really quick, there is not necessarily a quote unquote rule. There is a regulation, a law, if you will, and that is purposeful advertisement that is meant to mislead a consumer is illegal. Mm-hmm. If you were to walk into a store and a store would have accidentally forgotten to take something off of sale, there is no law that guarantees you that price. It is the courtesy and it is a good customer service practice to offer or to provide you that price. But a business, I don't know where the idea or concept that's the law. It's not a law. Well, if a business is purposely advertising, if I have window signs that are up that are saying this speaker is $9.99, and you come in and I'm like, oh, that's a mistake. That is where you're going to get in trouble. If I don't have advertising for it and you come in and there's a sales sticker on that speaker, I don't have to give it to you for $9.99 because it was a mistake.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Now, to elaborate on that, Michael, there are two things. The old-fashioned way, it's called bait and switch. Now, that is illegal. If you bait somebody in and you switch that on them. But then also remember, some states are called at-will states. Pennsylvania is an at-will state. You go into a place and you cause a ruckus or a dispute, you can be asked to leave at any time. You don't have the right to go into a store and be there. It is called an at-will state. A store can have the right to ask you to leave if you're doing said things. You don't have the right to come in and say what you want when you want to say it. So there are laws about that too.
I'm going to come into Mother Tucker's. I'm going to cause a ruckus.
Misty, you come to Mother Tucker's and do whatever you want. I will personally roll the red
I'm going to walk in the door and I'm going to say, I'm here to cause a ruckus amongst us.
Honestly, Pennsylvania, Michael, you know that, right? Pennsylvania is an at-will state. It's called an at-will state. And even if
you can shoot somebody?
No. What it means is that you can be
asked. Stand your ground.
Okay.
The definition of an at-will state is that if you come into an establishment, you can be asked to leave for no reason. They don't have to give you a reason. They can just say, I want you to leave. And it's not against the law to do that. Now, rightfully, if you are conducting business the right way, you should have a reason for why you're asking the person to leave, because odds are the police are going to be called, and then the police are going to ask you, why are you asking this person to leave? If you give just cause, the police will side with you. And I know that as a business owner, because I've had to utilize and exercise that before, where I've had customers doing things that weren't right, not theft, but things that I needed them to leave my building. And I had to exercise my at-will right, which meant they needed to leave.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, oh, shoot, nuts and berries. We just lost it. Okay. Big Fins is saying, like, they will get you take advantage of the old ladies that don't know. I mean, I don't know. Personally, in my experience, my old ladies know a lot more than I do. But life experience has a tendency for some people to do that. Some people, they will never grow in.
Well, you know what though? I that's why I think it's important that I always put previews of everything that I'm going to be selling so people can see it and they can do their own research. It's upon them at that point to do their research. I do a reel, I do stories, I do still photographs and put them on Instagram and on YouTube. So at that point, that I give them their due diligence.
I think that's a good point, Misty, because the sorts of disruptions that happen in a brick and mortar store like we work in are different than when we're selling online, but there are disruptions during online selling. And, sometimes it's handled very quickly and most of the viewers don't see what's going on, but oftentimes it's quite visible and sometimes even unacceptable. So there are different sorts of I think guidelines that sellers online need to use in order to just keep the chat a place that's safe and a place that is purposeful.
Yes.
Colleen,
yep, absolutely.
Colleen, to answer your question, yes, that law also it's a very broad law. It also covers employment and things as well, the at-will state. It also has to do with a ton of other things, but that's just one portion of it and how it is like. It's like an A to the B to the subsidiary of such and such. But that law also covers different forms of employment and things of that nature as an at-will state too.
Yeah. Goodwill shoppers. Oh gosh.
Wait, what?
Oh no, Ruthie was saying Ray Dunn shoppers can be mean.
I bet. They get in there and start throwing those elbows. Mm-hmm.
Well, now let me ask you guys a question about that. What do you think about a reseller that goes into a TJ Maxx and buys something and then sells it? Like,
I have zero problem with that.
I got zero problem.
Yeah, I do too. I just wondered if there was like such a negativity because it was a goodwill.
But if you are having a vintage sale and then you are bringing Ray Dunn and things that are not vintage,
right.
That's when it's kind of like, and there have been times when I have bought something and I bought it at an antique store and it was like a more contemporary Hallmark holiday piece. But
Misty, not everything in my store is an antique or a collectible. Like I can't micromanage my dealers on everything, but generally when you come in, the majority of it is going to be an antique or a collectible because that is my true name. It's Mother Tucker's Antiques and Collectibles. So, when you come in my store, I do have dealers that sell wrestling figurines and Hess trucks and things, but some people may not view that as an antique, but you will.
I keep highlighting Michael's stuff like this on my channel. It's not on my channel. But this was a good thing to talk about. If you've had non-payers, how do you handle when they try to purchase from you again in another sale?
Good question.
That's a very good question. I will send an email out to them. Like, I give people a couple days to pay their invoice. If on that third day they still haven't paid it, at that point I'm sending them an email with a direct link to the PayPal invoice to pay. If something doesn't get paid by my Tuesday sale, then they no longer and they haven't communicated with me. That's the key. Communicate with me. If they've not communicated anything with me, then they are no longer allowed to attempt to purchase from one of my sales. And that may sound very harsh, but I don't have time for it. It's like I don't have time to sell the stuff. It to me, it's disrespectful. Like that person that doesn't pay for something is kind of a disrespect to the other people that wanted to purchase that thing, because then they drove up that price. That's why I don't feel comfortable with selling it to the person, the backup, because I feel like the price was just driven up. So then I go back and I will either do it as a straight offer, straight claim, or I'll just go ahead and resell it the next week. But they will be blocked because I don't have time to mess with it.
Exactly, Sarah. But and I agree with that though too. And here's the thing. Yes, Karen, Bill will talk. Here's the thing. For me, and that's the thing. At the end of the day, it is a business, and I drive it as a business. I do everything on my end as a seller to, one, bring you good stuff. So I take the time to invest in sourcing that. I am putting the money up literally for that. That is a risk. It's not a guarantee. I don't know what the return will be on those items. I am then making sure that I am packing that item safely and securely for you, and I am invoicing you. And not only that, but I'm getting you a discount, and I'm sharing that discount with you, and I'm not keeping that discount, which I could very well do. But I get you an invoice out always within 24 hours of my sales ending. And just as Misty said, if that is not paid within the 24 hours, I will send you a reminder. If that's not paid after 24 hours after that, I'm going to send you an email. And to me, what that is that is saying to me, I don't care. I don't care about the time that you have taken up until this point to try to treat me with respect and dignity as somebody who is willing to purchase this from you. Okay? I can't engage and conduct business in that way. And to avoid that in the future, and to avoid, and I've had to handle it live.
Yeah, he has.
I've had to handle that live, and it's a recognition. And I think that I've found a way to do it is that you just simply say, I am seeing all bids.
Yes, because that's the thing.
I'm seeing all bids.
We
but
have a lot of helpers.
So I never want to call somebody out by name, though some people may feel that it's justified. I personally would feel that if a seller did that they would be justified in doing it. However, I want to create an environment for people, right? I don't want people to be like, oh, he's going to call people out. I wouldn't fault another seller for doing it. I really, truly would not. I wouldn't. I'm not going to do that. That's my choice, but that's how I handle it.
But just know that other people will go back on that video. Like if I bring something back the next week, trust and believe that there are people that will go back to last week's video and they will see who it is. So I will never publicly say it, but people will go back and then they will check. And I'm like, communicate with me. You can lie. Tell me that your husband ran over your foot and you were in the hospital. I don't care. Just if I don't get any kind of anything, and I know things happen, but try. I wanted to point out too, because talking about a seller or a buyer, not, I won a YouTube auction on April 5th. I emailed the seller 3 times, and each time they promised to send me an invoice. Still waiting. Frustrated. I'm ready to cancel. I would cancel the order. I would. I would email the seller and I would say, I'm sorry, I no longer am interested in this item.
Absolutely.
I mean, you should not be tracking down your seller.
No. And I think
sending you an invoice.
I think what's going to happen is this still continues to evolve, this new way of selling. You're going to see people who have the integrity, ones that you can trust, and you'll start to see the people that are handling business like that as a seller fade away. They will not be able to continue. No. They will try to have a pulse and try to continue to do this, but the ones that are not invoicing and shipping properly or misrepresenting their items, they're going to eventually not have people attending their sales. It'll just be natural progression.
Yeah.
I think for people who don't know how we do what we do when we sell online, this is all giving them an idea to that question we were talking about earlier about, when you buy something for $2 and you sell it for $30, what's going on there? There's a lot that goes into what we do behind the scenes. And another thing that's related to a question that was asked just a little while ago about where Jason and I specifically source that we haven't mentioned yet is that I spend a significant amount of time building relationships with people who are out going to estate sales and people who have the ability to pick all day. And they know what I'm looking for, and they can put a box together for me when I can't. So the amount of relationship building time that happens when you do this, me really as a collector, but for people who are selling, is another significant piece of what we do that is not really seen in these live auctions when we're bringing the objects to people.
Right. Yeah. True.
Yeah. It's the people you network with and the people that you also help source items for them, and you make sure you give them a heads up. It's the behind the scene community that you have with people,
Criteria. I don't know. Maybe some folks in the chat that have purchased from a lot of live sales. Maybe you can give Colleen some tips on what's the criteria. What do you think the criteria? We're not going to mention names or anything, but I mean, like, what's the criteria that you think is a good? It's different because, like, on eBay, you've got feedback. We unfortunately, I wish that there was. I wish that there was some sort of feedback that could be left that would help people navigate through reputable buyers. But there's a lot of different fingers going around too, because you have people that are full-time resellers. Like, this is how I pay my bills. I take it very, very seriously. Mm-hmm. I make sure that I'm taking care of my customers. I want my customers to come back. There are some sellers that just sell this on the weekends, or it's just like a side hustle for them. So they may not take it as I mean, that you should still take it seriously, but they may be a little bit more relaxed in sending out invoices or whatever. But 2 weeks, that's waiting on an invoice. I don't know. I mean, you may want to go to their one thing I want to say is go to a live sale. Honestly, look at a live sale. If they have nothing in their description, that's your first clue, in my opinion. Look and see if they have policies in their description of their sales. If they haven't taken the time to make out policies for their live sales, you might want to think about it twice, because that's going to protect you and it's going to protect them.
As a buyer, I think I have some thoughts here too. And one of the things that's always a trigger for me is when I hear the word perfect, excellent, pristine condition. We're buying vintage items, folks. That rarely happens. Another red flag for me is when the seller always knows the maker of everything that they're selling. That's a concern for me as well, because many sellers know a lot about a lot of things, but they don't know everything about everything. And not every piece of glass that comes forward is Viking or Blanco. So that is also a concern for me. I also, and this might be a sensitive topic, but I really like it when buyers interact with the chat. I think that indicates a certain level of interest in you as me as a buyer, and I gravitate back to those sellers, because I feel like if a seller is wanting to make a relationship with me, that's not someone who's trying, I hope, not someone who's trying to get something over on me. And then I also like sellers who are thoughtful about how they say certain things. And I think we all slip sometimes. Like, I would much rather have a seller say, when I won an auction and I won the auction at a good price, that I got a deal. For me, one of my personal pet peeves is when they tell me I got a steal, because I'm exchanging money with you, so I'm not stealing it. And it's a small thing, and I think we all slip from time to time.
Yes.
But I do think it's sort of
I'm going to say that to Bill from now on.
What's that?
It's a
I remember
steal
you-
deal, Bill.
Steal.
Boho.
Michael, you're not gonna get any of his pixies now, Michael. If you start saying that, you're not gonna get any of Bill's pixies when he unloads them in a few months.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm sorry, interrupted.
I think that Bill's right. There are little nuances, I think, that you can start to pick up on. You really can. And
Right.
and honestly, you want to see, like, that's why Michael and I get so excited when a new buyer, or they were previously a lurker, and now they're commenting in the chat,
Right.
because that you feel like we're bringing them out of their shell a little bit, because it is a safe place. And you can talk in our chat. We will defend you. We will not let anybody be mean to you if you comment in the chat. So I think that is a good thing too.
And a couple people have mentioned it earlier in the chat, but when a buyer takes the time to do a little education about something they do know a lot about,
Yes.
I think that's really helpful. Like, there's nothing better than at 2:30 some Tuesday afternoon watching Misty flip through a children's book and read a couple passages to us and really help us experience what that ephemera that she's holding there has. I think that also, so a seller who cares about their items, you can tell whether or not they cherish it. I mean, look at what Michael brings to us and how he holds the glass from 1890, right?
Yeah.
He cares about that glass. That's not someone who's just trying to flip an item to make some money.
Yeah. Well, and there's a fine line though too, because you can have something that you're trying to sell, but you don't need to read every single page out of it.
Yes.
It's like, we get it. How much is it? How much are you asking for it? You don't have to read, especially if
you ruin the story then.
Right. You just give you little
But like
sneak-
the idea of how you get the smell back into your strawberry shortcake dolls. I had no
Yes.
idea. I learned
Right.
something, right?
Right.
Wait a minute, what?
And who knew that he collected
What?
strawberry shortcake dolls?
And he needed the banana one or something still.
Yeah.
Wait a
I
minute.
do still need. Anybody got banana twirl out there in YouTube universe?
How do you put the
I've
smell
got
back
lunch
in?
blossom.
How do you put the smell back into your strawberry shortcake?
Scented. I use Suave because they have the most wide variety of different
I love the way you said that.
fragrances.
Suave.
But
I
it's
use
inexpensive. But Suave hair conditioner.
And do you wash it with it, and then that
Yes, you
smell?
do. And you let it set. You
Wow.
put it in their hair, and you can brush it out, and that way
Right.
it doesn't get knotted and frizzy. You
Well,
let it sit, depending on how frizzy it is, for however many hours. But it will actually the
Oh,
conditioner
no.
smells, but it brings out.
What
Oh
about
no.
for baby's secret? What can we do for
Oh
her
God,
hair?
Misty.
I don't know.
I could fix that. Like, no joke. I could legit fix that. I don't like it when she does that.
Yeah, I think that's what does it.
That's her motor in her mouth.
You can send it to me. You might not get her. Her hair will look really nice. I can't guarantee the rest of her will come back to you intact.
No, she's perfect. It's okay, baby. Nobody should be scared of her. She's
Now everybody's leaving the chat, Misty. Way to go.
no scarier than that thing is behind you.
No, but you know what? And I want to touch on this really quickly, though. So far as deciding what sellers to or not to, or who is a casual seller, who is doing it full time, it's not to say that somebody who is doing it full time can still take a very casual attitude about it. And it's not to say that somebody that is doing this part-time can't take a very professional so there is no, and the best thing to do is that if you are unsure, is attend a sale or two and see how they comport themselves, see how they're conducting with the people in the chat, see how the people on the chat, as Bill was saying, exactly, give them a chance, kind of gauge, see if you feel comfortable, trust your instincts, listen to your gut, only pay through PayPal, period. So if you were unsure, you have PayPal to back you up.
That's why we, because someone was asking earlier about PayPal. First of all, my CPA will have my hide if I am not accepting PayPal payments, because it's in my my accounting software. So I mean, I don't want to use anything else because it's all right there, and it's a protection for both me and for my buyer.
But I do want to touch on this really quick, and I can't remember, but before it goes out, Bill, you said earlier in the chat that you decided that you were doing a sale every 2 weeks, and maybe you would throw in one every now and then. What is it? And you don't, I mean, you don't have to go into great personal detail, but what is it that made you say, I'm only going to do a sale once every 2 weeks, maybe another one if I can squeeze it in? What led you to that course of action rather than saying, I'm going to commit to doing one every single week, this day, this time?
So, a couple reasons, and I don't, I'm going to say something and it's going to make people, think a certain way about me, but I'll just put it out there. This isn't my full-time job, and I respect people for whom it is their full-time job. I'm not in here to be competition with anyone. I just want to share the lovely things that I have. And I have a lot. I have a large basement full of inventory. And so that's one reason. Although I would like to find homes for all of the things that I have. But again, I have a full-time job. It keeps me busy. I am fortunate that I love my job. I love what I do. I think that when I do retire, this will become a full-time thing for me. Brick and mortar will become a full-time thing for me. Yes. I have the luxury of being able to do that. I don't think that, I think for a lot of people who work full-time, there can be a tipping point if you try to do too much with the online selling. And I think more than once a week would be absolutely untenable for me. But I have a great group of people I'm working with right now, so I'm really happy to continue that for as long as it's happening. But I would consider working there. In fact, I think I would be pretty picky about who I worked with, quite frankly. Not that I'm in a position to say that, but
no, I think that you should be. I mean,
yeah.
I think that you should be, because it's your business on the line. And
Yeah.
trust me. We've learned, and I think that you have to, if you're watching other sales, and I think that it's okay to approach another reseller and ask about doing a sale with someone. But I think that the key to that is, and I think that you would, but I mean, the key to that is respecting if they say, no, I can't right now, or, you know what I mean? But it doesn't hurt to ask. It absolutely doesn't.
I'll just say, Bill, thank you. That I'm very honored. I've been honored since Molly and you and Sherry have reached out to me. I'm very honored to be able to sell with you guys, every other week. We really haven't discussed or said that we have our, bi-weekly sale, the Treasure Hunters, over on Instagram. We had it this past Tuesday, so we'll take a Tuesday off and we'll be back. And I thank you, Bill, that I was in the small group of people that you would consider selling with. And I really, really, really appreciate that. Thank you.
Do you guys think that there are any specific red flags that you would? I think everybody had some really good points. Misty was saying look for descriptions in their videos. If you're seeing no description, no contact information, no policies in regards to buying and selling, I think that that's a pretty good
Policy
indicator.
writing is very easy. You just have to write what you expect, and that's it.
Mm-hmm. No. This is not a scary Joker face. Y'all need to stop it. She's adorable. She is happy. She's living life to the fullest. This is what she's doing.
She looks like Jinx Monsoon to me, if anybody gets that reference.
But if you really,
Yeah.
if you do talk about her too much, she might come alive at night. I'm just saying, it's a possibility. So she's a sister you got to treat right now. Just
See,
saying.
I remember when they came out in the 90s, they were all over the Jersey Shore. I can remember going into the places on the boardwalk and those faces were everywhere.
I think people think that she's creepy. I just can't even.
And so I don't like her the blue on her eyes.
And Brenda really did help inform me. And Brenda, look, I got another one. I did get another one, Brenda. But Brenda really educated me on the history of these. And Brenda, I did read the article, and I just thought it would be prudent maybe to get another one. So, it is an honor to be able to have something like that. This is artisan made, by the way. It's not a mass produced kind of item. This was somebody's creativity that was put into this. And I really think that she tried to create a lot or convey a lot of joy and happiness.
Yeah.
And to me, she's very reflective of that. So, yeah, it's the mouth. You're saying it's the mouth. I mean, I get it. I don't know. In real, maybe it's just because of you're seeing it in the video. Yeah, she's super stylized.
Michael, did you just buy them, or are you collecting them? Are they coming up in sales, or?
Well, I've always been aware of them. So the designer was Lady Lulu. She was a jewelry designer. She unfortunately in 2017 she lost her life, so she's no longer living. But there's there's 2 or 3 different. There's a man. She made a man.
I didn't know they did that.
Yes. But yeah, she's very 80. I don't know what I was just talking about. I just think that she's darling. I think she's fun. I don't know. We're going to hold on to her for a little bit, and then we'll sell her.
You hear that, Ruthie? Ruthie's been chomping at the bit.
Mm-hmm. Oh, Ruthie's been chomping. I might be able to sneak another one in. If I can get me another one, we'll see how quickly I can bring one to a live sale for you again. So. All right, guys. Well, guess what? It's 10:01. So I think that we'll go ahead and we'll wrap it up here this evening. It is Lady Lulu, Lulu, Lady Lulu. So I want to personally thank, of course, Jason for joining us again. And a huge thank you to Bill for joining us for the first time. We really do appreciate it. It was certainly a pleasure. Just a quick reminder that in the description of the video is all you have to do is follow that little blue link. And if you just you click that link, it'll take you to Instagram or to YouTube. All you have to do is hit follow or subscribe. Bill might post another really super hard to find fairy lamp. Just saying. Glimmer lamp. Sorry, Viking.
In the nutmeg?
Wouldn't that be nice?
that's a scarce one to find. I wanted to say too before we go, if you are some people have emailed me, but if you are a buyer and you attend a lot of sales and you might be interested in coming on Vintage Rescue Squad next week, not for the whole time. I think I'm going to do 20 minutes at a time, depending on how many people would like to come on and be on a panel. So if you could send me an email at thrifterjunkervintagehunter@gmail.com and let me know if that's something that you would want to do to prepare for next week.
So really quick, Jason, do you have Bill? When is your next sale, sir?
My next sale is Tuesday, 1 week from tomorrow. At 8 o'clock with the treasure hunters, Molly, Jason, Sherry, and I on Instagram.
Yay!
That's awesome. Jason, when is your next sale, sir?
It's going to be here on YouTube. It's the Vintage Quartet. with the very lovely Sarah, the Traveling Button, David, Junk Drunk Mantiques, and our special guest this week is Steph, Vintage Freak 32, which I think two things. One, I think this is her first YouTube sale, I think, but isn't it? No. Okay. Well, it'll be the first time.
Steph sold with Misty.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then it'll be the first time I get to collaborate with her, which it will be very fun for me to finally get to collaborate with her. So I'm very much looking forward to it. And I'll be looking forward to weekly with Sarah and David. Yes. Oh, and actually tomorrow night, Enamour Amy has a sale. I'm going to be her official bid ender. So seriously, guys, you are into,
oh my God, that's right. Tomorrow, the flower face.
Yes.
Yeah.
You have to get over to Instagram. And if you're not following Enamour Amy, it's literally, I'm telling you, somebody who has bought ceramics for 20 years or more, it's once in a lifetime. You are never, ever going to, and you should never say never. You're never going to find this many of them at one place offered up.
It's a great collection.
So y'all got to get over to her sale tomorrow. Get over to Instagram and follow her, and I will be her official bid ender for her.
Ooh.
Yes.
Get it. Misty Pate.
Tomorrow at 1 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, Michael, right, Cult.Of.Vintage and I will have our weekly Tuesday sale at 1 o'clock Eastern. And then Wednesday at 1 o'clock Eastern, I'm having a sale with Ariana, the Withering Cottage.
Ooh.
And then right after that, I'm going to be on Sarah Coleman's channel. Immediately after my sale on Wednesday, I'm jumping on Sarah's channel for Wicked Good Vintage. And Enamour Amy's going to be on there too. It's going to be me and the Amy's and Sarah.
Ooh.
On YouTube.
Amy, Sarah, Misty.
Yeah, on YouTube.
Get it. An amazing week and an amazing next 2 weeks really is scheduled out for you guys. Again, the easiest way to keep track of everything, again, the description, I know I'm harping on it. In the description and the video is all you have to do is hit the link, hit follow, hit subscribe. Make sure you leave a thumbs up. We all are regularly posting updates, whether it is on our stories, our posts, or on our community tab here on YouTube. That will keep you most up to date. You'll get to see sneak peeks in regards to things that will be up for sale. So it's just the easiest way to stay up to date. Mary Bill does not currently have a YouTube channel. However, his Instagram page is again linked down below in the description of the video. So you guys, thank you all so much for being here with us this evening. We really do appreciate it. To everybody that is out in the chat, we most certainly appreciate you guys taking the time. Nikki Moss. And spending the evening with us. We really do appreciate it. Again, we would not have the privilege of being able to be up here on camera if it was not for every single person that is out there in the chat this evening. You guys, thank you so much for all of your love, all of your support. It really does mean the world to us, really and truly. So, all right, guys, hope you all have a good night, and we will see you all maybe tomorrow at 1 p.m. Good night, guys.
Bye, guys. Thank you.